Our final episode has arrived, the end of an era, our final moment upon the stage before the curtain falls, and for this momentous occasion, there is only one place we can begin. Watching Bashir sleep the morning after he and Esri do some boning. After a little bit of pillow talk, we check in on O'Brien before he's heading out, tying up all the family business first.
Please don't touch that.
I let you play with my toys.
And I reiterate my point that Molly is the most adorable child in all of Star Trek, probably in all of science fiction, and would also have made a better captain than Archer. I think we can all agree on that one. We also hear that once the war is over, O'Brien has an offer to teach at Starfleet Academy. Engineering, I'd guess, although surviving with a gold shirt would be a fitting course for him too. And we also swing by Sisko's quarters as Cassidy copes with morning sickness, and a visitor swings by.
Hey, I thought I'd walk you to the Defiant.
And remind you that I'm still in this show, since I've only been in 2 of the episodes this entire story arc. So everyone piles on to the old Defiant, even Odo, who's naturally worried about how Kira is doing trapped on Cardassia, and would like to be there to make sure that she's okay. And if it means flying through 1,000 Dominion ships, whatever. Their relationship has been through worse than that. Besides, they're bringing a badass fleet this time, and everyone seems to be invited. Romulans, Klingons, if you got a ship, you're welcome to shoot at the Dominion today. After the titles, Sanders lays out the stakes for the head Breen. I forget which one. I'm sorry if I offend anybody, but they all look alike to me. She makes clear this battle is for all the marbles. Win, and the other powers will be devastated. Lose, and there's nowhere to fall back to. But victory will give the Breen both Romulus and, at the Breen's insistence, Earth, as if they had some special interest in conquering our world. Can't imagine why. Weyoun's slightly put out, as he had been promised to administrate the Federation for the Dominion, which includes the Earth, but Sanders admitted that she lied to the Breen. The Founder's view of the rest of the sapient species are that they are dangerous, pitiable children. For her, telling the Breen they'll get Earth is like a mother telling a child to finish their vegetables or Santa won't bring them any presents. You can say what you want in order to get them to do what's good for them, is their philosophy. Broca swings by to pass along the rumor that Damar survived. It's a rumor that you would naturally suspect would occur, but it's so persistent that it suggests more truth than mere fanciful interest. They will be increasing their patrols to try to ferret them out, and soon after a couple Jem'Hadar find Damar and Garrick. So you have to give them credit for being quick, especially because this is government work. Usually you're lucky if it gets started in the same month. Before they execute Garrick, a Breen stops by to relay a message, but nobody understands, so she just shoots the Jem'Hadar instead. Don't shoot the messenger, but it doesn't work the other way around. Luckily, it's Kira doing her best Bausch impression, and escorts them back to the entirely too big cellar after a meeting with various resistance groups. They're going to be causing a massive disruption all over the planet, severely hampering Dominion efforts if the battle reaches Cardassia itself. It just goes to show the power Damar's reputation has for them. Without that, their best option would probably be to put sugar in Weyoun's gas tank. Over on the approaching Defiant, there's a bit of banter, mostly about getting the new Defiant as ready as the old one had been, but also talking about relationships, the Alamo, stuff like that. What isn't brought up, though, are the prophets, which might be why they interrupt right now. And Sisko's mom is the one there, just like before, making clear, or rather not clear, you know how the prophets tend to explain things, that the true journey for Sisko is not the war, but it's back on Bajor. And would it kill you to call once in a while? 16 hours of labor, and this is the thanks I get. With that cue, we return to the Kai Wynn Dukat plot as he returns to her with his vision restored, although anyone who wants to sleep with Kai Wynn probably didn't have very good eyesight to begin with. She's put the time to good use, though, having sorted out the secrets of the evil book of evilness, and now that Dukat is here, they can both head to the fire caves and release the Pa Wraiths, meaning they will destroy the prophets and allow these two to become uber-dictators over whatever people happen to survive the coming apocalypse. So they head to the fire caves, where Dukat grumbles at how often Wynn has to stop to rest. Seems that the clergy have less cardio activity than mass murderers do. Back on DS9, Quark is trying to pass the time hanging out with Vic Fontaine, but it's not helping his mood any. After that grand declaration that his bar would be the last outpost of true Ferengi values, Now he's sitting here with the place pretty much empty while everyone is off fighting a war. Can't very well be a monument to avarice with half a dozen customers. Vic sees through this, though. Quark's bothered because they're off fighting the war and he's left to stay behind, wondering if they'll come back. Best to check and see if Worf's paid his Bard tab. That's been proving a pretty accurate barometer so far. Things aren't too pleasant at Dominion headquarters either. Things are so bad that Breen will be joining the Jemadar shock troops to fill out the ranks. Weyoun spots a weakness in their defenses, and then the power goes out. Broca picks that time to walk in, to announce the planet-wide sabotage efforts. To prove what a booby is, all he does is come in and give them the bad news. When his predecessors were in charge, they wouldn't have arrived personally until action had already been taken to address the problem. This implies that, while he might be loyal, he is useless. Carrying messages back and forth is something a child could do. The Dominion needs a leader of Cardassia who will know what his or her place is. So it's no surprise that when he says the saboteurs that were captured are civilians, as she starts choking him over his mismanagement of the situation. Of course, it's a sign of their own mismanagement that things have gone this far. Damar may have been a drunk, but he could do this job better. The only reason that there's no one fit to lead the Cardassians anymore for the Dominion is because anyone capable has risen up against it because of what the Dominion has done. Weyoun suggests that they make the people suffer since the people are the ones causing the problem now. But as previously discussed, that kind of thuggery only works if the people are without hope. And right now they have more hope than ever that they might be liberated. Damar's presence is giving people that hope. And in the entirely too big cellar, he takes time out to acknowledge just how much the Cardassian people are going to owe Kira once they're free. And Garrick points out the historically amusing nature of that. It's like rain on your wedding day. The power comes back on and Weyoun gives a statement. They know this dissent is just a minor part of the population. Most of you remain loyal citizens of the Dominion who would never raise a hand against your benevolent protectors, which is why they've destroyed an entire city in response to this sabotage. No further explanation needed. Have a pleasant day. This raising of the stakes only convinces them that they need to retaliate harder. So the group will organize an attack on Dominion headquarters to hopefully prevent any further atrocities. Although with the Dominion, that's a bit like hoping a toddler won't wipe poop all over everything. At the front, the Armada has finally arrived. It's a horrifying sight if you think about it. When the Borg arrived, what was so terrifying was their simple but unstoppable drive to consume. Their powerful ship was imposing in size, form, and purpose. But while the Dominion fleet isn't the same, nevertheless what it represents is chilling. Aside of the subservient Breen and Cardassians here, these ships are not here for any personal drive whatsoever. They are here solely because they were told to be here. They will fight only because they were told to fight, and they are prepared to die in a cause without ideology or reward. They are not in service to a cause, but an extension of the will of a select few. A few consumed by a xenophobia that drives them to dominate and destroy. Say what you will about the Borg, but at least when they look at you, they see something of value. When the Founders look at you, they have nothing but revulsion. So the two fleets meet, and they fight, and they fight, and they fight, and they fight. Meanwhile, Mila and Garrick are squabbling as usual.
You've hardly touched your meal. No wonder you're not looking well.
I'm not looking well because I live in a cellar.
Now let me finish this so I can get back to my World of Warcraft. But their playful squabbling has reached its end. The Dominion has arrived and murders her, and then drops a stun grenade on the rest of them. Now that they've been captured, the Dominion can question them and likely learn all the contacts that they have in the Resistance and annihilate the whole organization, leaving it in complete disarray and likely to collapse entirely. Or, and Sanders thinks this is the better idea, let's just kill the three of them right now and forget about learning anything. We can always nuke another few cities if we have to. That's what leadership is. Back in the battle, O'Brien is injured, and during the course of treatment banter, confesses to Bashir that when the war's over, he's going back to Earth. But that assumes that they survive, which isn't looking too good right now. Admiral Ross phones up to say the Romulan flagship has been lost and their support is buckling, but Sisko points out that the center of the Dominion line is thin. the same concern that Weyoun had had, and he would have corrected if the saboteurs hadn't cut off the long-range communication. Good thing they're executing those prisoners, huh? That way we can be sure this kind of shit will happen again. Only they're not being executed. The Cardassians that came with the Jem'Hadar instead shoot them and free the prisoners so they could join in the revolution. There comes a point where, if despotism isn't working, you really need to stop doubling down on it. The Founders are like a guy at the roulette table prying out his own fillings so he can put them all on red. To prove this, in the middle of the space battle, the Cardassian ships break lines with the other Dominion ships and instead join in the onslaught on the Jem'Hadar in Breen.
The timing couldn't be better.
Well, I think maybe 20 minutes ago would have been better, before they were blowing up your ships and you were blowing up their ships, but it is certainly a welcome change. When Weyoun finds out, he's shocked that they might rebel over one measly atomized city. But all Sanders can think is that she's had enough of these assholes. She has Broca dragged off for execution and then orders the extermination of the Cardassian population. All of them. Because there's no reaction like overreaction. Plus, let's waste resources fighting civilians when you're dealing with an incoming invasion force. The Founders are so accustomed to their will being made law that there's simply no coping with the reality of the situation here. She told Odo back when she first was training him that to become a thing is to understand a thing. And yet despite this, she and the rest have no understanding at all of those that the Founders would lord over. They still see any solid as plotting against them, and this reaction to Dominion despotism is not seen as the understandable response to atrocity, but just one more example of how the solids always want to destroy changelings. If Sanders believes that she has made any mistake, it's in ignoring Cardassian resistance for far too long. That's her narrative. Solids are once again plotting against changelings. And even if she is surrounded by Alpha Quadrant powers telling her, this is all your fault, this is because of Dominion totalitarianism and aggression, she will crumble to dust, not accepting one word of it. Once you become hardened in your belief that you're always the victim, then even when you're the oppressor, you'll still believe that you're the victim. The remains of their fleet is falling back to defend Cardassia Prime, only because it's the center of Dominion power, obviously not to defend the Cardassians. And Sisko, Ross, and Martok discuss whether or not to pursue. Martok is all about the fight, having promised to drink Blood One with them on the surface of the planet, but Ross isn't too crazy about pressing their luck. But Sisko has an important argument. The presence of the Cardassians are a game changer, and even more importantly, if they go to Cardassia, they can punch them right in their stupid face. So Ross reluctantly agrees to launch the attack. As they press on, Dukat and Wynn reach their destination in the fire caves.
Post up, Moja.
Oh, damn it, I left the marshmallows back in the temple. She tosses away her Kai robes and renounces the prophets. Yeah, officially, the murder was just feeling things out. She gives Dukat a big smooch, then reads from the Evil Book of Evilness. But that's going to have to wait. Right now, the Cardassians are rallying to attack Dominion headquarters, although Garrick is rather bummed that his dream of returning to live on his homeworld, in this house, with Mila to argue with, is about to be destroyed by the Dominion. He's decided to work through his grief, though, with the time-honored method called revenge. Of course, it would help if the fleet could return the favor that the rebels gave them by knocking out communication, so a distraction might allow them to get inside and end all of this. And sure enough, the fleet is on the way, although Cardassia is not exactly ripe for the taking. Only so many of those ships are going to fall for the old your shoe is untied trick. Down below, the rebels are in position, only Garrick has bad news.
The cargo door is made of neutronium.
Why would you build your door out of neutronium, but not your spaceships? I mean, if it's so hard to get that you can't, well, surely you could think of more inspired uses for it than a door. I mean, it's like using depleted uranium to make a manhole cover. They have a good laugh over the situation, while inside, the head of the Breen heads off to personally oversee the final defense of Cardassia. As for Sanders, she's clearly on death's door, unable to change form anymore, yet still worshipped even in this state by Weyoun. Even now, with the plan in tatters and her dying, he still sees her as divine and infallible. What a waste. Next time, the story and series ends with the last part of What You Leave Behind.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
I am happy for you,
That's a relief.
but I am going to kill him.